live with Kiss and Tell Magazine. I'm Dr. Jenny, and my special guest today is Dr. Viviana. Welcome, Dr. Viviana. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jenny. I'm so looking forward to our conversation today.
Well, we have a lot to talk about, and so let's get started. Let's talk about your book, The 4 Intimacy Styles.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, so the 4 intimacy styles, just right off the bat, they're bonding, release, giving, and responsive. And the reason that I think it's important for everyone to know what these intimacy styles are is because if you're looking to continue to have or to get into and keep a long-term lasting physically intimate relationship, then knowing how to round out your intimacy style to where hopefully you'll include 25% of each of these 4 motivators, inspiration, the reasons for having sexual intimacy into every or nearly every sexual experience, then you are much more likely to have that lasting physically intimate relationship for life, right? And if you're choosing to be in a monogamous relationship, you probably know that it's difficult to keep that connection. And this is just one of the very best ways, if I say so myself, to make sure that you do keep that and you invest in your relationship.
Hey, you should say so. I mean, if you don't say so, who will?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I do say so.
Yes. So on that, I noticed that a lot of people compare this to the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
So one thing about the 5 love languages, for people who don't know, sometimes 2 of them can overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the case here too?
So with the 5 love languages, by the way, I am super flattered anytime the 4 intimacy styles comes up with the 5 love languages, because as you know, in relationships, emotional intimacy is so important. It's such an amazing piece of experiencing the pleasure of a relationship. It is quite different though. I'm asking people to try to have all 4 of the styles in every sexual experience whenever possible. With the 5 love languages, yes, you can have a primary, you can have a close secondary love language. And that's great because then your partner can kind of split their energy instead of just focusing on one of the languages. And that's always nice to have options. So with the 4 intimacy styles, I'm asking, in order to try to be as varied as possible, right? And to get a real nice rounded out experience of sexuality and intimacy, that you try to incorporate all 4. And that's a little bit different. Some people have been coming in and saying, well, I'm mainly bonding. Is that good? There are no good, there are no bad. Like with the 5 love languages, there's no judgment. It just is what it is. But what I'd like for y'all to do in order to really start to match up and experience that compatibility sexually is to try to add on bonding, release, giving, and responsive, all of them, to your sexual experiences, so that you don't have to question whether or not your needs are going to be met or your partner's needs are going to be met in the bedroom.
So, for me, of course, I understand what you're saying. I'm a sex therapist, sexologist. But from that point of view, I'm thinking about counseling a couple in my mind right now. And is this a book that kind of goes with the relationship? Oh, you have dogs too. Yeah.
She's been quiet all day, and of course, right now she's
Okay, that what happens. Yeah, mine's outside for that reason. So anyhow, but when you have a couple and they're working with that book to improve that part, their sex life, does this book ebb and flow with it? So for example, let's say they read the book in December. They start implementing it, okay? Everything's working. They're like, oh my goodness, thank you for this. This has helped us tremendously. And now it's March. Can they easily just go back to the book for help?
Absolutely. What I would want people to do is either take the quiz online. It's a free tool that you can take online, and you can find out what percentage of each you're currently at, and then always try to strive Yes, it's at drviviana.com. You can go to forintimacystyles.com and it's there as well. And it's a free quiz and it'll tell you what percentage you are of at each currently. If you start noticing that y'all aren't really feeling connected, specifically with your sexuality or physical intimacy, go back and take it again. It could be that one of you is striving for a lot more of release, or one of you is striving a lot more forgiving. And when that happens, you can feel like you're missing the mark. And so it's a little bit of a gauge too, it kind of takes the temperature of what's going on. Now, of course, there are other times where you can see that there are other factors that absolutely take you here and there, and you're like two ships passing in the night. But if you are experiencing it specifically when you're talking about sexuality, and even more specifically, intercourse, outer course, those sorts of things that are very active physically, then you can take the quiz and see if you're just maybe missing the mark.
So tell us about your experience when you were doing, what is it, Married at First Sight? Am I correct? I was
Yes, Married at First Sight. Yep, it's on Lifetime, and it's of course streaming on all of the Hulu and Netflix and everything. Yes, I was on from seasons 9 through 14, and I really, really love being a part of love stories. I love being a part of the process of potentially keeping people, having them find their love and then keep it, right? Obviously, it's up to them to do all the work, but but being a part of that was really special, and it's such a privilege. And then, of course, a lot of individual experiences, realizations, right? They go from being single to engaged and married, without ever meeting their partner until they get married, over the course of a couple of weeks. The single portion where we're meeting with them takes a few months, but really it happens for them from finding out that they're matched to getting married is 2 weeks. So that's a whirlwind. I mean, we're basically just throwing them into a tornado and saying, don't worry, where you end up, you'll be fine. Well, when you're up there, you don't know if you're fine. But it was really a great way to kind of use my skill set in a fun, active, what I think very meaningful way.
I'm curious, did you have any backlash from that?
Not really. I mean, there were always people who were disappointed in some of the matches, or disappointed in the things that they did not see happen. There was a lot of explaining. Okay, so if you're seeing me for 3 minutes with a couple, just know I met with them for 3 hours. So they'd be, well, why didn't you ask this? Or why didn't you say that? And, as I'm getting screenshots of all these questions from I guess, well-wishing family or whoever, in my mind, I'm thinking, I did ask that. That was probably one of the first questions I asked, but they decided not to show it. And, what I would think is relevant as a clinician, what you would think is relevant as a clinician, isn't always what a production company is going to share. I honestly think that if I ever was the producer of the shows that I've been a part of, it would have been so much more boring. It would have been a lot more relationship therapy heavy. And that's not necessarily what somebody wants to tune into every week.
Right. They want to see the love match, They
want to see the good. They want to see the highs and the lows. But, those conversations that we have with clients behind closed doors, sometimes it's like watching paint dry, and we're here for it. We like slow and steady progress and change. I think for entertainment purposes on TV, they want something very quick and flashy and dramatic.
So I apologize because I'm about to bounce back to the book.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I love talking about my book.
And I noticed that when you said monogamy, and as you know, society is changing about how we view monogamy. So would your book apply to any type of couple, or does it have to be monogamous?
I think it most directly applies to monogamous couples. But the tenets of it, the reasons for experiencing sexual intimacy with a partner, those stand true no matter what you're into. I just find that people who are intimately disconnected, sexually dissatisfied, they want somebody to tell them, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening, and then this is how you can fix it. When it comes to adding on a third partner, a fourth partner, it just gets infinitely more complicated, and it's very hard to share the direct way to get help in a book. It might be more of a conversation that might be better suited to a more interactive, maybe therapy, that sort of thing.
Oh, no, I'm glad that you said that. It's not, like I say to my couples all the time, if I could fit you in one session, my price would be quadruple. I'd be charging at least $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never one session. It's never one book. It's a constant work,
Right. And even with couples who are exclusive and monogamous, there is a lot of generalizing that happens when you're reading a book. I do try to have different kinds of case studies. I want people to find, something that's relevant or reminiscent of themselves in the book. But imagine trying to do that with quads, or triads. Like, it just becomes a little bit harder. I'm sure somebody's out there writing the perfect book like this for non-monogamous, consensually non-monogamous relationships. And who knows, that could happen in the future. But so, yeah, I think that you can get a lot out of it still, but it's not a guide specifically for polyamorous couples.
Right. So I thought you were sharing, there was something that you wanted to share for our viewers.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've had so many people since the book has been really well received, and that's a huge relief for me. I love that. But there's been a lot of, so at the end of the book, you share ways that we can incorporate more bonding, release, more giving, more responsiveness into our sexual experiences, into our relationships. We need more. We need more guidance. And this is something that I've been working with couples for at least the last 10 years in a very methodical, systematic way, is helping couples go from either very little to minimal to zero or very dissatisfying sexual connection to then working through that and then coming out of the other side feeling like they have a really strong foundation to work off of and then possibly build upon when it comes to sexuality. And I'd been doing that in my office for so long. And after the book came out and people kept saying, okay, we need more, we want more guidance. How do we do this? Where's the how when it comes to rounding out our intimacy styles? And I said, you know what? I've already been teaching people that. And it's called the Dr. Viviana Method for Intimate Reconnection. And I finally turned it into something that is now an online program for couples that they can purchase it online and do it and get it started at home. It's a 6-week program. I'm very, very, very detailed in what I want you to do. This is a tried and true method that I've done with hundreds of couples and probably 1,000 at this point. I don't know how many, but a lot of couples. And it's tried and true. And I finally turned it into something that's digitized and you can have it online. And then on top of that, I decided, well, I want to make sure that nobody has any excuses for not actually completing the program. I want success to come out of this. I want you to come out of this feeling like, wow, that was life-altering, life-changing. And so I created a course kit that couples can get, and it gets delivered right to them. It includes like 12 different things, but the main thing that's the most important is the manual. It's a printed manual that really helps you to stay organized over those 6 weeks so you can plan ahead. And when you do that, you tend to actually get through it in 6 weeks versus, oh, we kind of fell off after week 2 or fell off after week 4. So it's delivered straight to them. And then on top of that, we have the next option, which is to actually work with someone for check-ins, 30-minute virtual check-ins over the course of those 6 weeks, a Dr. Viviana method provider who can provide that extra support and help you to work through things as they come. So those 3 tiers are now available for pre-sale at drviviana.com. The month of December is the pre-sale. You get discounts, bonuses, free upgrades, and then it launches to the public January 1st.
Nice. That sounds great.
So excited. Yeah. It's really, really exciting to finally have it out there for more public consumption versus just working on the people who are in my office. As you know, it can be a little bit frustrating, or I don't know, maybe stifling when you feel like, gosh, I wish more people could do this. Well, more people can do this now.
Right. And plus they can do it at home.
Yeah.
So
they can do it at home. And I'm trying to get people to start in December so that they don't, so that come January, come February, you know, I know that February 14th is always a big deal in our career and in our field. And not that they have to fall prey to all of that, right? But I do want them to feel differently and set up for better intimacy come Valentine's Day. So start now.
That way you can enjoy it if you want to.
That's right.
Consent first.
Yes, lots of consent, definitely. That's sexy. Consent is sexy.
You're right. Consent is sexy. And on top of that, Valentine's Day is just a reminder to show your partner love. And really is what it is. You don't have to do the cards and all that if you don't want to, but showing them how much they matter. Yeah. That's always a good idea on Valentine's Day.
Absolutely. We're socialized to remind each other on that day. And so that's why it's going public on January 1st, because then 6 weeks later, you might have a really special Valentine's Day.
Right. I'm pretty sure that's a good idea.
Thank you.
So how about in the field? Do you find, as I do, that there's like a conflict in this sexuality field between professionals and non-professionals?
You know, I think that now that we have so many people who are putting themselves out there as sex coaches, that we're going to get a lot more dialogue, which is the plus side, right? We're getting more visibility. People are out there talking about themes that maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago would have been very niche and very like in a corner somewhere of the internet, right? And now we can speak so much more openly about these things, which I think helps to get the word out to people who really need the information, right? People who don't need it, they don't care. But the people who do need it, they're actually getting little pathways and doorways that open up that they can follow through to get more information. So that's the really good thing about it. The not so good thing about having so many people talking about sexuality is that you start to get to a place of judgment and binary, right? And it's like, you either think this way or you think this way. Well, I can tell you as a therapist, and I'm sure you feel this way too, it's so individual. It is such an individual, it's such a personal and personalized situation that, you know, no couple is the same as the next. And so when you start speaking in absolutes and this is the way it should be, and you should feel this way about sex, well, you're alienating at least 50% of the people you're talking about. So I think it's always important to remind viewers, to remind your audience, to remind followers that not everything that I'm saying is going to pertain to you and your relationship.
Correct.
Take what you need and leave what you don't. If it makes you feel badly about yourself, maybe take it 50% and just food for thought. Take it back to your relationship for discussion. Take it back to your girls' night for discussion. But if it's something that you think, wow, I hadn't thought about that, and that, why is that sticking with me? You know, reach out, ask me, you know, why do you think this is happening? Fortunately, it's so interesting having a platform at drviviana.com, I have a section called Ask Dr. Viviana. And it's my place for people who want to ask me very specific questions about their relationships and get a personalized video response for them. Now, it's not therapy, right? It's more like advice giving, and it's with the minimal information. Again, not therapy or counseling, but I'm always surprised at how people reach out in that way and are so vulnerable with what they ask me. And I'm thinking, wow, if I'm the first person that they've ever asked this, I need to remember how to share this information to keep the dialogue going, whether they meet a therapist in their hometown or they ask me a follow-up question. But it's such a privilege to be someone that people reach out to, and I don't take that lightly.
Yeah, I agree with you. This topic, to me, educating and doing therapy, and Kiss and Tell magazine. I have to plug Kiss and Tell magazine.
Yes.
But, I mean, just having all these positive avenues for the topic of sex and sexual health and sexual wellness. It's okay to talk about it. It's not a bad thing. Part of the reason it becomes bad, if you will, is because we don't talk about it. We don't freely engage with the topic. It's still hush hush. It's so whispered. I mean, I had my hair done and the other day, and they said, "Do you realize what she does for a living?" And the next person in the chair goes, "No, what?" And they whispered, "She just sat still," but they whispered it. I'm like, "What are you whispering it for?" Because that means I'm ashamed of what I do, and I'm not.
Right.
So,
It's that's the other good thing that you reminded me of more people out there trying to give information, good information, not so good information. The great thing that comes from just talking about it more openly on social media channels, on interviews, on TV, in writing, is that some of the gatekeepers of social media and internet and media and all that, they can start to allow more conversations without filtering out, obviously there are certain things that we'll always want to filter out, but when it comes to just in general, the fact that there are some social media channels that won't allow this to air, that's a problem. We've got two professional doctors in their field who are trying to help people to love themselves, love each other, and create more positive interactions in the world. And we're going to get stifled by certain gatekeepers. So I think that the more we talk about it, maybe it'll become more common.
Yeah, I agree. It gives more power to it by keeping the conversation going, and not only doing it in our office. So, and your book helps with that, and the January 1st, the 6-week course helps with that, and this podcast helps the conversation keep going too.
It really does. And in the comments of these podcasts, I would love to see people sharing. Obviously, accolades are great, but more than anything, it's great to hear people's questions. You're not alone in the questions that you have surrounding this information. And you're not alone in wondering if what you are consuming in other places and other outlets is misinformation. I know that that's something that Kiss and Tell is so dedicated towards, is really trying to reduce misinformation in the sexuality field. And that's why all of us at Houston Relationship Therapy are huge fans of Kiss and Tell magazine and the mission that you have and that you've continued to have for years, and hopefully will for a long, long time. And encouraging other sex therapists to say, hey, I have something to share with Kiss and Tell magazine. I want people to get this information. This is something that's working with me and my clients in my office. Let me share that with all of you. And I strongly recommend that people do that because, we talk about expertise and it doesn't always look one way and it doesn't always come from one source. But if something is working for your clients, please
Mhm.
share it with the world.
Right.
Not everyone's going to get to go and sit down in front of you. That's why I write a book. That's
Right.
why I do as many podcast appearances as I can. That's why I did this program. That's why I'll have more. You
Mhm.
know, being on TV, all of that is to get that information out, because not everyone is going to be able to see it, you know, sit across from me.
Right. Thank you for saying that. You're right. Because even in our 25-minute conversation, we've only touched on a small part of this topic,
Yeah.
a very minute part. I mean, I know a lot of people think it's huge, and it is. I'm not minimizing it. What I'm saying is it's a bigger topic than what we've talked about for 25 minutes.
Exactly.
There's many different aspects to it.
Yeah.
And how it affects your life and who you're attracted to. And all that is good as long as you're giving consent, and it's not harming you. So, yeah.
Right.
Well,
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
yeah. So, thank you for your time today. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you and all of your listeners and your audience. Have fun in Florida. I hope it's a little bit of a cooler Christmas. I doubt it'll be a white Christmas, but maybe
No.
white sands. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. You as well. And we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Let's keep in touch with all of this. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Dr. Jenny.
Before we end, I want to tell everybody we have one more podcast for the year. It's in a week, and it's with the KNC family. And all of us are going to celebrate the past year. Join us so you can hear what everybody has to say about 2022. All of our wonderful content writers. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Viviana. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye.